This is Captov. My name is Mike McCullough. Today, I'm going to talk about Scrum and what is Scrum. To start, Scrum is a framework, and it's a framework for solving complex problems. It's built on top of empiricism and self-organization. Let's unpack those quickly. When we say Scrum is a framework, that means it is the minimal set of things that you need for Scrum. Scrum is not called a process because it's actually not meant to be a full end-to-end process. Again, the minimal set of things you do or that you need for Scrum, once you build on top of this and you put into place a way of delivering product with Scrum at the core, now you have a process. So empiricism is an approach, it's actually a process control model too, for solving complex problems with a lot of variables. So in a world where if I'm dealing with something, making something, or trying to manage something that has a lot of points of change that are occurring all around it, as it turns out, a very efficient model for managing that complexity, managing that change, is to build in a regular point where you inspect where you're at, and once you've inspected, then you adapt. And that adaptation might bring you back on course, or it may change course, depending on what you're learning. Now, Scrum, being, again, based on empiricism, has inspection and adaptation built into it. All the different events have inspection and adaptation built in. And on top of that, there's also transparency, which is really the third, or really the first leg of empiricism. Now, the reason I say the first leg is because without transparency, you cannot really inspect. If the team if they're looking at whatever the data is, be it the product themselves, whatever the problem might be, and they're looking at it and they're taking away different information, it is not practical for the team to actually inspect. So what you need is you want transparency on all of the data so that the team can look at it, take away the same information, have a conversation around this, and then come up with how they're going to adapt. Self-organization is related to servant leadership, a leadership model rather inspired from Lean and Toyota. Now, self-organization in Scrum it's really a cross-functional team who, within the bounded context of Scrum, the rules of Scrum, are pursuing goals. And those goals are twofold. First goal is a product. We're there to build product reliably, high quality, that delight our customers. And the other one is to become better as a team. There's two things that Scrum is trying to advance: the product and the team. The product and that vision, the goal for that, is being represented by the product owner. The advancing of the team is being led, and the vision for that is with the Scrum Master. Now finally, where or why would I apply Scrum? Well, where you want to apply Scrum, or where Scrum is a great fit, is where you have complexity in what you're building or how you're building it. Now, in the realm of software technology, you tend to have both. The reason I say that is if the product already exists, you have to ask the question, why are we building this? If it's already built, you should really look at a different model for execution or building this thing. So, but let's look at this. Let's do another example. An example I like to look at is making cakes. And so I'm going to go with the first example is you're going to bake a cake. You're going to bake a cake for your friend this weekend. And to do this, what you're going to do is you're either going to look for a recipe or a mix. Now, given this model, so I have my recipe, my mix, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm trying to build. In fact, I'm trying to achieve a reasonable approximation to the cake that's on the cover of this recipe or the box. And my ways of getting there, well, those are really well described in explicit steps in the recipe. It tells me the ingredients I need, it tells me how to mix them, it tells me how long to cook it and at what temperature, it tells me how long to let it cool, it tells me when I can frost it. So by following these steps, I have standard way of achieving uniform output. Now, let's contrast this with another type of cake making activity, which would be making a brand new recipe or making a brand new mix, one that does not yet exist. Now, within this realm, I don't have an exact what I'm building. I have a category, but the cloud or the universe of cakes in the world is pretty broad, so who knows where it might fit. And on top of that, if I don't know exactly what kind of cake I'm trying to get to, because I haven't made it yet, I don't have a set of steps to get me there. So in that world, my what, the cake I'm making, and my how are not known, or they're not perfectly known. I may have ideas, but they're not a set of steps that I simply follow. So the net of it is, it's the latter example. It's where my what I'm trying to get to and or my how I get there are unknown, or there's a lot of complexity and variability in it, this is where I will apply Scrum. And this is where I'll recommend you apply Scrum as well. Please subscribe, like, and add a comment below.